So I'm Eric Byrd, and my business would be the Sunday Jazz Workshops and our Summer Jazz Camp. And I serve my clients or students, however you want to phrase that, by equipping them with the skills and techniques and tools necessary to be able to play jazz music at high levels.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How did you get into jazz? Tell me a little bit about your backstory. If you've always loved music.
Sure. I don't know other than I don't know other than my dad was a huge jazz fan. God rest his soul. So his thing was he would come home from work and he wouldn't watch television. He would put on records. I'm old enough
Yeah.
to remember records.
We love vinyl. We
Really?
listen to
Okay,
records
great.
every night.
Oh,
I
that's
love-
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I restarted my vinyl collection now because
Yeah.
that was my dad's thing. He would come home from work and then he would put on records and he listened to jazz more than anything else. So I think I just grew up in a household with parents that had really good taste
Yeah.
in music, which I was very fortunate with. And then so that's where the kind of jazz thing was born, I think.
Who were some of their favorite artists?
He really liked Sarah Vaughan, who I ended up, of course, loving, and he really liked Duke Ellington and Count Basie. He was a big band guy, so he liked kind of the big band guy. A little bit of Benny Goodman. Coleman Hawkins was a big one for him, tenor saxophonist.
Yeah.
But for me, what really, really, really hooked me was when I went to college and I heard Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, that record, Kind of Blue. They had Miles Davis on trumpet and Train on tenor and Cannonball on alto, Bill Evans. When I heard that record, I went, I don't know what they're doing, but I want to do that.
I want to do that.
Like, I don't know what that is, but that's what I want to do.
But that spoke to you.
Yes, it just turned my whole life around at 18, 19, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to do.
So in college, did you pursue music in college, or was that something kind of that came later?
So that's when I kind of
Yeah.
pursued music in college. It was funny because my father, while he was a great fan of music and jazz, kept saying, well, you can't make a living being an artist. Like you have to do something responsible.
Yes. Good
But
parenting advice.
that's right. But I'm a parent now too, so it's like, you have to do something responsible. Because I think my dad's overarching goal was that I could not move back home. He enjoyed having the bedroom for his clothing, and
Oh, right. Oh,
so he was like,
okay.
you can't come back here.
Yeah.
So you have to find something to do. But I think, when you're passionate about something and it's in your heart and you love it, it just calls you. And so I always tell people, I didn't really pick music. Music picked me. Like I just loved it from the time. I mean, even when I was playing classical music or I was playing, I listened to the regular stuff that kids listen, stuff on the radio. And I grew up in the 80s, which I think was a great decade of music with Prince and Madonna and Bruce Springsteen and Michael Jackson. And so I listened to all that stuff and I just loved music. So it just called me and I just had to.
You had to answer.
I had to answer. I couldn't
Yeah.
run away from it.
Yeah. So after college, where'd you go from there?
So from college, I did a couple of grad school programs. So shout out to Morgan State University, HBCU in Baltimore. So I got a master's in music from there. I also, a little bit later, got a master's degree in leadership studies from Lancaster Bible College because I was getting jobs to work at churches, and some of them were very large. And so I got a leadership degree from Lancaster Bible, which was a great experience.
Yeah.
I'm still doing church music. I'm at a church now in Frederick Restoration Church in Frederick, Maryland. But after that turned into me playing around the Virginia, D.C., Maryland area and kind of freelancing with other musicians. And then that turned into me putting a group together so that we could apply for what was then called the Jazz Ambassadorship. And so the United States State Department and the Kennedy Center had a thing called the Jazz Ambassadorship where you apply for it and then they pay bands to go overseas to play music all over the world.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, I'm probably the only person you or your viewers might know that we were in South America during 9/11. So we had to get on an American Airlines flight on September 12th.
What was that like?
That was surreal.
Yeah.
It was surreal because, that was before cell phones. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
So it's before cell phones. So you were trying to call home and cell towers were down.
Yeah.
You're trying to call your wife and make sure that everybody that you know is safe and everything. So it was scary.
Because nobody knew what was happening, and there wasn't even really social
That's
media.
Right. That's right.
Then, so you're just turning into the news to figure it out.
And the scary part was you didn't know whether there was another wave of attacks coming.
Correct.
So that was the other thing where we were going, oh, wow, we're 4 days into the tour. We're in Colombia. We're supposed to go to, I think the next country was Bolivia, I think was the next country. Mm-hmm. And, are we going to Bolivia or are they going to send us home? And so the State Department told us, it's probably safer if you guys to just stay down there and just continue to tour. Wow. And one of the lasting memories that I have of that tour is we ended every concert with the South American people singing God Bless America in English. They would sing that to us, which is incredibly moving and, thoughtful and empathetic, all that stuff. Yeah. So then once we came back from that 6-week tour, then we were off to the races. Then we were playing concerts and gigs, and we've been doing that ever since. And the band is almost 25 years old now.
Wow, and you guys have all stayed together? And
Pretty much. We've all pretty much stayed together. We've all pretty much, we do have, occasional opportunities to play with other musicians, but Eric Byrd has always been the Eric Byrd Trio.
Yeah.
And the drummer, who's Al Young, who's a Leesburg resident.
Yes.
I'm going to go throw a rock through his window.
I was going to say, he
here.
won't meet you for lunch today?
He won't meet me. I was trying to get him to take me over here to get like the whiskey flight thing, but Al, shout out to Al Young. Al is great. Al is like the best drummer in the world. And he is, he should be actually doing his own thing. He's going to blow up even as we speak. He's got endorsement deals coming and teaching opportunities coming. I mean, he's in demand to do clinics. He's a magician behind the drums. He's really, really special.
So you're on the keyboard.
I'm on the keyboard. He's on the drums, yeah. And then third. For a long time, we had with us Mr. Bhagwan Khalsa, who is our friend and our brother. And then just recently, we're going to be working with another bass player for the foreseeable future. But Bhagwan laid the groundwork for all of the stuff that we've accomplished. So all of the records and all of the tours and all of the shows that we played, all of the important milestones in the band, Bhagwan's been that 33 1/3 for the band, and much respect to him, much love to him, and he's pursuing some other opportunities right now, but much love to him.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's just you have to make a life change. And
sure. Life.
Things up.
Life. I try to be a person of faith, and the Bible always talks about seasons. And there's seasons for everything. And just because one season turns, winter turns to spring, that doesn't mean that winter was bad and that spring is better or it's going to be more valuable or what. It just means that sometimes the seasons change. And so we just find ourselves in a season right now where we have an opportunity to do something new. And so, we're going to pursue that, and, B's going to pursue his things. And proud to say that, I still love him. Still love him.
That's great.
He's been the brother I never had. He and Al have been the brothers that I never had. I have a sister. I never had brothers before I had Al and B. So.
Well, how lucky are you to be able to find them
very
and call
blessed.
them brothers,
very
right?
Blessed.
Yeah.
Very, very.
So you guys have been touring all over the place.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about where the teaching comes in.
So I taught for a long time at different colleges and universities, and always in the music department, usually in their jazz department. And so what happens is, and I think most people would kind of say this, when you're teaching, it really forces you to break down not only how you play, but why you play what you play and how do you articulate what you play. So the teaching thing really forced me to go inward and say, okay, I've always been a pretty good player, but why? And what techniques work well? And what improvisational things can I articulate to other students, adult and young people, and that kind of thing? And then also, especially with Alfonso and I, because Al and I are on the faculty at the same time of not one but two colleges. Al and I are on the faculty at Gettysburg College, and we're on the faculty at Shenandoah University in the conservatory in Winchester. And so these kids are better than us now. These kids are coming in, like playing at incredibly high levels.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to think, man, I really have to step my teaching game up to be able to what's a good word other than educate? Because that would be too on the nose. I'm trying to be fancy. Let's see what's a good word.
Yeah.
To be able to edify their education. That's a good word.
Yeah, that's a great word. Can use that today.
I can use that, yeah, to edify their education.
Yeah.
So Al and I bring a lot of, real world experience because we're playing on the weekends. But we also bring that into the studio. And so the teaching thing kind of came up where I was like, wow, here's an opportunity where I'm around a lot of young people. Maybe they would benefit from, my years of experience. We've been playing together as a band almost 25 years. I've been playing gigs ever since college, and I'm an old man now. So, it's, why not pass that on? I mean,
right.
One of the great things about jazz music is that there's this great mentorship that always happens.
Mm-hmm.
So Miles Davis passed on his knowledge to piano players like Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea, and then Chick passed that on to other musicians, and then those musicians pass that on to somebody else. Yeah. And so we have the same opportunity to be able to pass that on to other people. And so I really got excited by the idea of mentoring as I got older.
Sure.
Al, who, by the way, I just want to put on tape, I want to put on blast, is not meeting me for lunch today.
Oh, yes.
Not. We talked about this before.
Yes.
There's so many great places up and down the street
I know.
where you can get something. I said,
I
Al.
think you need to go anyway and just send them
I'm going to go by myself.
And just say this is
Yeah.
what
As
you're
a matter of fact, I might take
on.
you. I might take the crew here. We'll take pictures of what we eat, and then we'll send it to
You'll be
Al.
like, look how much fun we're having.
That's right.
Yes.
While he's like cutting his lawn or whatever he's doing today.
Picking up his dry cleaning.
That's right. Putting up the dry cleaning or going to the bank because he still goes to the bank.
Yes.
He's an old school guy, but it's just great to be able. We had a conversation after a gig a couple of years ago where Al said, we're old. We're old now. Like we're old. And I thought
You're
about
only
that.
as old as you feel.
Yeah, but but we're old. But the point is that he was saying, yeah, but like what are we giving back?
Right.
Like what are we doing? Like, are we answering the question to, we played a lot of gigs, we've made a lot of recordings, and that's great, and it's great to be able to play, but
what are you leaving behind?
Right. Like, wouldn't it be greater if we left something behind for young musicians to be able to carry on this great music? Mm-hmm. And I really started to think about that, and I was like, yeah, he's right. Like, we should really start thinking about, and that's, some of the stuff I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, and mentoring other people is huge.
Yes, because people did that for us.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of artists like Elton John doing collaborations with younger artists, and I love it.
Yeah, love the Dua Lipa thing that he did.
And like it's
or McCartney does that a lot.
Yeah, let's bring some of what wisdom and knowledge we've learned in all these years in the industry and kind of give it to that younger generation.
Yeah, there's a great value in just sharing what you know. And of course that's universal to any industry, any genre, any creativity, or any whatever. It's like pass it on.
Pass it on. Yeah. What does music mean to you?
Music is life. Again, I try to be a person of faith, and I think it's the book of James, I think, that says something like every good and perfect gift comes from God. I think music is good and it's perfect. And I think music is one of those things that is universal, and it cuts through socioeconomic barriers and political discourse, and we cannot agree on anything, and we can like the same song.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a commonality.
Yeah, it's just, and everybody wants to be a musician. Everybody thinks they can sing.
Oh, not me.
Oh no, you can probably, but you can probably sing.
No,
not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Well, we're going to test that out right here on the No. We're not going to get to a piano and then play Happy Birthday and figure that out.
No.
You can't sing. Okay.
No. Just not something God gave me.
Okay,
gave me lots of other things. But
I don't know if I believe you, but I'm for the sake of argument, I don't think the people want to see us beef right here on on video. But okay, I'll just take that as But I mean, music is just universal. It's just a great thing. The other thing that's really been kind of gnawing at me, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, lately, is that I have this thing about jazz music, and I know a lot of people don't listen to jazz. It's not as popular as like hip hop or country or whatever, but it's like jazz music was invented like right here in America, like the blues, folk music.
I know.
It's American music. Like we should have more Americans knowing how to improvise. I mean, it's interesting to me that you can get a degree in classical repertoire. And classical music wasn't born here. Classical music is European.
Yeah. True.
So
I never thought about it like that.
I never thought about that as deeply as I do now until I heard Wynton Marsalis, the great trumpeter, give a speech on this. I think it was somewhere in Europe, but I saw it on YouTube. And I was thinking, yeah, he's right. Like, we should have American students be able to interact with the blues and jazz and folk music and country music and that kind, because that's ours. And it's exported to the world. And so that's, something that, so that means a lot to me. It means a lot to be able to play music in that lineage of all the great musicians that came before me and all the great American musicians that came before me, all that stuff. So music is like, I've always been one. I took my first piano lesson when I was 7.
Yeah.
So I don't really
it's always
remember.
kind of been in your blood.
Yeah, I don't remember not. Yeah, I don't really remember not being a musician. I didn't always think that I was going to make a living at it or that I was going to be able to make a living at it, but
I never doubted that this is what you were meant to do.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I doubted, and you still have to answer, how do you stay relevant? How do you stay, especially playing
That's
jazz?
always
yes,
like an evolving thing, right?
especially when you're playing jazz, which is not super lucrative and not super popular in the zeitgeist of musical offerings. It's not super common to turn on television or to turn on some streaming platform and there's a jazz music. It's not usually. You get, pop music stuff. But but we've been able to, we have been able to stay relevant, stay recording. And a lot of that comes from just interacting with young people and teaching and diversifying what you do and also having a good time doing it.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you about your teaching and some of the summer camps you have coming up. Talk to me about that.
So, let's see. So, a year ago, I think it was a year ago, we came up with, I had all these opportunities just kind of come my way. I was asked to be a guest conductor for an all-county jazz band. I was asked to go into a lot of different high schools and talk about basic improvisational techniques. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to leverage that to start what I eventually started, this would be a good time because I'm working with the population and demographic that I can take advantage of. So last year, we did our very first summer camp, as we're taping this summertime, so it's really relevant right now. It's our second year of doing our summer camp. And our summer jazz camp takes students from middle school through college, and during the day, we do a lot of funny. I'm smiling because I call it the woodshed. Jazz musicians have a lot of crazy
terminology.
Yes, like gig and woodshed and hip and cats. If you're a good musician, they call you a cat.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Cool cat.
Cool cats. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So like, I was having a conversation with a guitar player friend of mine, and he said, "Hey man, get on the keyboard and get rid of that guy who's playing keys right now. He thinks he's a cat, And like if
so
you
it's
were
just
to
the terminology.
Yeah, it's just a terminology. So we started our jazz summer camp, and so we were hoping for 20 students. And last year we had 41. This year we have 37. So we've almost doubled what our expectations were, and that's great. And this year we're doing 2 different weeks.
Okay.
And so we just completed one, and we're about to go into our second week, which is great because we have trombone players and a violinist and 2 piano players and 4 drummers, like in a partridge in a pear tree, and 2 turtle doves at a, I don't remember
What are
how
you
the
missing?
song is. Yeah. We need an oboe player and and
someone play the triangle.
Yeah, maybe you could do that.
I can handle that.
Maybe you could do that. Maybe you could do the percussion side of things.
Maybe.
But we have, so we're doing the summer camp, and that's been great. And then, as with anything, my kids are athletically active. They're involved in all kinds, and their sport is basketball. And one thing I noticed with them, my wife and I are like, my God, we have to get into the car again and drive somebody again to another practice or game again.
Again, for the 100th time. Yes. Yeah.
But what I'm noticing is that, wow, they're turning into decent players. And I don't know whether they have like a God-given gifting for basketball. That's not for me to say. But my point, just simply by bringing them up, is that they are constantly basketball active, so they're better than most because they're constantly doing it.
And they're constantly practicing.
Yes. And so when we did the summer camp, going into it last year, I thought, well, we'll do a summer camp and that's it. Then I thought, well, what if I offered something during the school year, not just during jazz band season, which for a lot of high schools is just in the spring, but what if I offered something where that they could come to a place where we could learn and play jazz all the school year round? And so that's what we started last year. We started the Sunday Jazz Combos. And so we take same demographic of kids, of students, and we put them into a group of people with similar skill set, so no one's overwhelmed, no one is, oh my goodness, I know, and I sort of teach them something for the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then the rest of the time, rest of the 75 minutes, we just play. We just play through jazz rep. Yeah. And I stop them and I, tell them we should maybe try this, or when you're soloing, think about this, or, here's a scale that you can use here, here's a bass line that,
so
that might work.
You're kind of guiding them through
Yeah. And then we play gigs all over Frederick County, all over Washington County, hopefully, here in Leesburg, when we get up and running. So we get the kids real world experience. I don't think there's anything that is a better substitute than playing. Yeah. You have to actually play.
You just have to do it and keep at it.
That's right. You have to do it. I mean,
as we kind of wrap up here, are there any last parting words you'd like to leave us with business advice, maybe your mantra that you live your life by, something about music?
Ooh, business advice. Ooh.
Yeah. Or teaching advice.
Well, how about I give you one of each?
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Here will be another 75 minutes of content that you can edit down. Business advice, I would say, usually your idea is original, but the execution doesn't have to be. Meaning that it might be unique for you to start a donut shop, but somebody's already started a donut shop. So what did they do? Find that person. What worked for them? What business practices can you adopt? What makes sense for your brand? And what, that may work for them, but I don't think that'll work for me. So my thing is very unique. I don't know very many places that have a jazz workshop or something like that. Right. But I know music schools, and I know after school programs, and I know athletic programs, and stuff like that. So try to be as professional and best practices as you can. Formalize your payment schedule. Don't have people say, oh, well, you can just write me a check and leave it at the door. That doesn't seem that doesn't imbue confidence. Right. Like have a platform where people can securely pay. Have a decent web page. Have good pictures. Be able to have and articulate objectives. Have a good time. Have a plan. Have a short-term and a long-range plan. And then the other thing I would say, music advice, is that you don't have to be like other people. You don't have to be like other people. Like when I was 20-something, I wanted a career. I didn't want to play gigs. Like I wanted a career. And there's nothing wrong with just playing gigs. There's nothing wrong with just playing, for people. But I didn't want to record a record. I wanted to record 10. I didn't want to just play for $50 until 3 o'clock in the morning. I want to play concerts. Yeah.
Like I wanted the next.
Yes.
The next step. The next level.
When I look at the jazz world, and it's very easy to say, oh, well, you can't make money playing jazz, or well, that doesn't move units, or that doesn't have downloads like somebody else does, or something like that. I wanted to be Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett played concerts, and everybody that came to see Tony Bennett, they weren't watching the backup dancers, or they weren't talking about like who he was dating.
The light show.
They sat and they listened to him play standards. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play music that people sat and they go, wow, that drummer is freaking amazing. Yeah. Wow, that piano player actually knows what he's doing. Yeah. So
and just sit and take it in.
Yes, be still and just kind of absorb. So I wanted to have a career, not just a gig, and you have a unique idea, and your business is unique, but the path to be successful doesn't have to be unique.
That's great advice. I love it.
Is that cool? Is that being hip?
Cool. It was a cool cat.
Was that hip?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
You're very kind. Thank you.
I loved hearing your story.
Thank you. This is great. What you have going here, I checked you guys out. It's like top-notch stuff.
We try. Thank
no,
you.
this is really, really great. And to have it available, local community, this is great. Like, this is
great.
really, really great.
Tell your friends, come and see us.
I am. I'm telling
Yes.
people, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Wonderful.
again, Eric.
Thank you.